In this video, we're starting off a series on sun salutations or Surya Namaskar. And the way we're going to work on this is we're going to break down sun salutation pose by pose. We're going to work on these poses individually for about a week each, and then we'll put them together into a wonderful sun salutation that you could practice. It's very nice to break these poses down pose by pose because you start building that intelligence in the body so that when you do practice your sun salutation, your movements are coming from that intelligence in the body. You know, we don't have to make these poses perfect before we put them into a sun salute, but at least build up that intelligence that lets you know how not to, maybe, you know, to prevent an injury or to address a certain weakness in the body, so that we are not compensating for those weaknesses and creating injury. So here we go. We will start off this week with the forward fold, or the Uttanasana part of sun salutation. So here we go. So when I start a sun salute, I'm standing on my mat. You know, I come up with my hand and I come down to a forward fold, right? So I can fold all the way or fold halfway. And here, usually, if we have an issue in the lower back, a lot of times we bend the knees. So what I want to say is we're going to learn how to keep those knees very, very straight and how to not bend. In an emergency, if you need to bend your knee because of a back issue, that's fine, but this should not be the approach for a sun salutation, to have those bend knees while coming up or going into your forward fold, right? The knees should be very, very straight. So how do we approach that, and how do we learn how to get to the point where we can do that? Okay, so the main reason why we bend the knees here, right? So we bend the knees and we create a tucking here in the lower back. We tuck on the lower back to protect it, and then we can come up. Okay, so if we're gonna repeat this pose 10, 20, 108 times, and we're doing it in that way with the bent knees, you know, we're compensating for maybe a lack of length in the hamstrings, and we're going to get a cardiovascular exercise, but really we're not going to ever address that tightness in the hamstring. So we really want to address the tightness in the hamstring because this tightness contributes to the pain in the back. So during a sun salutation where you're bending that knee to protect the back, you're getting a cardiovascular exercise, but you're not fixing the issue that's causing the pain in the back. So let's address that today. So the first thing, the way these will work is I'll demonstrate, and then we'll practice together for a few minutes, and then I'll demonstrate the next pose. So that'll be just the way that they'll be structured. Okay, so I will demonstrate now a pose called Dandasana and show you how you can extract information of what's going on in the body, in your body, from this pose. So if I sit here in Dandasana, okay, so I sit in this pose. Usually here, it gives me very good information of the length of my hamstrings, how I can work with the legs. So the first concept is length of the hamstring. If you're sitting here and you're starting out, there's probably a tendency to have to round the back or put your hands back here to support you. Usually that comes because there's a lack of length or a tightness in the hamstring. So if I'm sitting here, so if you go ahead and sit on your mat in this Dandasana pose, you'll see that there is a curve here in the back, or you're sitting towards the back of the sit bones. So if that is what's going on, if there could be, you know, a lot of tightness in the hamstrings. Usually when we practice this pose, we can add a little bit of height here in the beginning, or you can have, you know, a little block or something that you sit on, and just that little bit of height should help you sit a little taller. What I want to emphasize here is that the more active you can make the leg, right? If the leg is just casually there, then the back is not supported. So the moment that we can spread the toes, make the legs very active, and what I mean by that is my hands are just here, right? If I make a fist with my hands, now everything in my hand is active. So I want to do the same thing with the muscles in my leg. So make a fist with the leg. With your heels, push your heels out towards the wall in this case, right? So push the heels through. So there's almost as if you had like a metal rod, right? That it was very, very straight. So if you have a tendency to hyperextend in the knee, don't hyperextend, or the calf. Just think from here through the heel. So make that very straight, toes spread apart, and then by the activity in the leg and the ability to bring the top of the femur down to the mat, you're able to lift the torso. At first, this is way too much information. So it's good to use props to create that sensation in your body, and then you do it yourself. So the way we'll do that is I'm gonna grab a block, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna show you how to create that sensation of really strong, active legs and how that will help you do your forward bend, okay? So we grab a block here and tie a belt like this around the block and tighten the belt. Then I grab another, if you don't have a belt, you don't need to do this. You can actually, if you have like a scarf or something that you can use, or you don't need to do it. But if you do have the props, it's a really great way to feel. Okay, now I'm not sure. Okay. So here, I'm going to bring my feet, right? So I threaded the belt through the belt on the block, and I'm going to put my feet on the block, and this forces my legs to be very active. So my legs are active. I'm pushing the block. Before I was just imagining, right? So now I'm pushing the block away, making my legs very active, so very firm. Knees are very, very straight, and my body almost just gets lifted up with almost zero effort. I just want to note that the belt here does not go around my waist, so make sure it's not around the waist. It doesn't go around the hip, it goes below the hip, so below my hip bones here. And then I straighten the leg, and I feel like the tension in my belly goes away, so I don't have this engagement of these muscles. It's nice and soft. My spine can lift without any tension. I don't have any tension in the eyes, ears, and throat. And I can breathe freely, and I can sit here for a very long time. So I don't have that pressure in the lower back. Okay, so my legs are active. My heels are really working hard, pushing this block away. And another wonderful thing that this block does, if I have a tendency of putting more, of tilting the feet either way, I can straighten my feet and have equal pressure on both sides of the feet, which is so important, especially if you have knee issues. Sometimes we have a tendency of collapsing the inner foot in, especially when we do these poses. And this block is a great way to correct that, which would really correct a lot of pain and issues in the inner knee or outer knee. So here, so if you've gotten to the point, if you have the props and you're able to sit like this, you can sit here for about a minute and start understanding what it feels like and the importance of active legs. And so if you were able to do your forward fold here with these legs this active, it would be the best tool that you would have to protect that lower back while folding forward. So active legs, very straight legs, push really straight, stretching through the heel, making through the heel and then lifting that body and having the body just fold forward without any tension here. That's the quality that we want in the pose. If you don't have a block and a belt, and you have tight hamstrings here, you can increase the height of the blanket even a bit more, and you can use the wall here and really push the wall. Even just pushing the wall, you'll see that you create that lift in the spine. Make the legs very active and push the wall. So all 4 points of the feet are pushing the wall equally, and then lift the chest. So we'll do this so you can either use the block, this little system, or use the wall. Push the wall, and when you push the wall, make sure that you have a feeling, if you could have someone stand here and push the top of your legs down towards the floor, that's the feeling that you want. So there we go. And lift the chest here. So this is preparation of, do that for a few breaths, and once you're done, go ahead and come out. So this is just an introduction on how important it is to have very active legs throughout this process, and that strength in the legs, the ability to keep them active and to keep the knees very straight, comes with practice. So, the first time around it may not be perfect, but we'll get there. We'll look at 2 more things that we can learn in this Dandasana or staff pose, and then we'll move on to start really working on the hamstrings. So the second very important thing that I'm gonna, so the very first is learning how active legs and how keeping the legs very straight is super important in learning how to bend forward. And then we see the importance of this Dandasana. It gives you that information of how are my hamstrings doing? Am I sitting on the back of my sit bones here like this? Do I have to rest on my hands? Okay, that's giving you information that hamstring is tight. Can I push through the heels of my foot, and do I have a tendency of rolling the foot in? Can you notice that on this pose? So if you do have a tendency of collapsing the ankle and having, this foot come in or out like this, use the block, use the wall, and slowly gain that balance on both sides of the leg. All right, so that's in sun salutations, that'll come in very handy to make sure that the legs are balanced so that you're not putting pressure on one side and getting that tug on your knee and putting that knee in danger. So the second thing we'll work on is learning what does it mean to have this action, and we call it grounding because of the ground, right? So grounding the femur, bringing the top of the femur towards the bottom of the leg or towards the back of the leg. Okay, so if you're standing up, it's the back of the leg. So bringing the femur, sometimes, we tend to lift the top of the femur here. It's a sensation. It's a way of describing this action in yoga. So we bring the top of the femur down. So how can we learn that? I'll show you. Okay, so we grab a chair and go ahead and sit down on your chair. So this works wonderfully if you have a partner working with you. If you don't, you can use a sandbag or you can use your own hand. So here we're going to use our own hand. So you have a chair and you sit on the chair so that your legs are in 90-degree angles with the floor. And you take a few breaths here. So I'll demonstrate for you. Use inhale. Soften the belly, eyes, ears, throat. And when we are in this position, when we are here, the legs are very straight. And then we make these femurs, right? The top of the femurs, we don't want them coming forward. We want the top of the femurs going back towards the back of the leg. So it's this action. And this may be a little bit more advanced of a topic, so it's good to listen to it. If it doesn't make complete sense, you can do the exercise, and eventually, if you maybe come back to this video after practicing this for a few months, it'll make more and more sense. So This is also great for knee injuries and for correcting that over stretching or collapsing of the inner ankle or outer ankle. So here, when we bring the leg up, we want to make sure that the leg is balanced and the foot is not pronating to or turning to either side. So go ahead and put a little bit of weight on the top of the femur and take a few breaths there so that you can receive that weight. So sometimes when we press down, the leg presses back up as a first reaction. So you can even try to pull the femur up towards the leg and then release it down towards the bottom of the chair. So do that a few times. Do the opposite action. The wrong action is bring that top of the femur up. See if you can push this quad muscle up towards your hand, and then think of, okay, I can do the quad. I feel the skin, I feel the muscle, and then imagine the bone coming up. And then inhale, exhale, release the bone down so that you can imagine that bone descending down. Even if that's not what's physiologically happening or physically happening, you can have that imagination. So the bone is coming down and releasing down towards the back of the leg, the muscle and the skin. So once that bone is down, or once the top of the femur is grounded towards the bottom, the back part of the leg, then you lift the leg. And you feel immediately that this all comes up, right? So here, release that down. And in the beginning, it's not an easy thing to work on. So here we bring it up. So we usually think the foot brings the leg up. So think the leg comes up because the top of the femur comes down. So leg comes up. So we'll do about 10 on each side of these. And if a friend can come and really put all of their weight on top of your femur, you'll feel like the leg is just flying up, right? Versus very labored bringing the leg up, right? So really put the weight on the leg and just notice how you can release the top of the femur down, or you feel that all of that mass just coming up. Of course, you're going to feel a contraction there, but at this point, we're just trying to understand a concept of grounding the femur. And you're going to use this in most poses. I can't think of a pose that you would bring the femur forward. All right, so I have not been counting, but if we have done 10, then that will be enough. Okay, leg down. So this is another great exercise to develop that grounding of the femur, the strength of the leg, how straight you can make that leg, and then work on the ankle so that it's balanced, right? So both sides of that ankle are equally stretched. So building that strength on the quads, on these flexors, and on the legs. And then really starting to build that intelligence of, wow, am I collapsing my ankle, or am I turning my foot out? So let's keep it balanced. And we're not necessarily trying to make this perfect, but we are working on that awareness. Okay, I will show you another trick here. If you've done your 10, if your hamstrings are very tight, or if there's pain in the knee, I'm gonna show you on this one. Grab a belt and put that belt around the hamstring area here. We're gonna pull the hamstring back. So let's just say I have a pain here on this part. I'm gonna put that belt in front of that pain, right? If you have a knot that's very tight there, and you pull this belt up and back, and then carefully, and at the same time, this is coming down, okay? So that doesn't change. But I'm working with a belt here, up, top of the femur down, back, and then bring the leg straight from there. Okay, and making sure that we're not rounding the back, so keep the back straight. So pull that belt back. All right, so we'll do it to the other side, and you can do this a few times if that's helpful for bringing that leg straight. So again, if I have a tight spot here, or if it's not tight at all, but I want to try this, I bring the belt at top of the femur down towards the chair, belt up, pull it back, pull the hamstring, the tight part of the hamstring back, and then lift that leg and straighten that leg out. And make sure that it's balanced at the heels. I'm not moving, that I'm stretching both sides of the leg equally here. Spread the toes if you can, and pull that hamstring back and come out. Okay, so we've been through two big topics here. So one topic is energizing the legs, making the legs active, which we learned at first sitting in Dandasana. Second is how to ground that femur, how to teach that femur how to come down towards the back of the leg. This is one way to do it. I find it very effective to learn these concepts. And now we're going to look at the role of the kneecap in forward bends. So here we have it. Maybe I will bring this down a bit. Okay, so we can look at the kneecaps. Okay, so here I have my kneecaps, and I can learn how to bring my kneecaps up. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to I think you can see this. Okay, so I'm going to put my fingers on both sides of the kneecap, and I'm going to move the kneecaps around. If there's no pain, sometimes there's a little crunching sound forward and back. And I'm just going to be gentle, but I'm going to move the kneecaps, right? And this is something I can do every day. Every day, lubricate that kneecap, make sure that it moves around freely, and you'll see maybe one leg moves better than the other leg. Oh, there we go, moving that kneecap and moving that kneecap. Okay, if it's difficult for you to sit in this staff pose, okay, there we go. Okay, then go ahead and use a height and sit on the height. So the kneecap can be lifted, right? So if I pinch here, I am not pulling up at all. I'm just pinching, and then I'm using my quads to bring the kneecaps up. So pinch, and it gives you that that connection with your brain to move here, right? So you move the kneecap up, and then you move the kneecap up. I'll show you standing up. I think it's easier. Here are my knees. I move the kneecaps around carefully, and then I pinch the knee. I am not moving my hands. I am just moving my quads, right? I'm bringing that kneecap up. So it's possible. So I'm gonna come and do 10 lifts of the kneecap. There we go. There is lifting the kneecap. So when I do my forward bend, I want both kneecaps up, right? So I'm in my forward bend, I lift. If I feel that a kneecap is dropping more than the other, the leg that's dropping the kneecap, that side it's probably going to be the side that hurts or the side that gets injured, right? So lifting the kneecap really does protect your knees, your body from getting injured. So if the leg is active, we lift that kneecap, and then we can lift the sit bones, and we can fold in a forward bend much more effectively. So when you notice that you're losing that lift of the kneecap, or that you can't lift it at all yet, just know that is it's a point that you discover that you can work on. So the way you work on it, you come and you sit here in this staff pose. You use the height if you need a height, you can use a little folded blanket or block, and then come to Dandasana. You can come to Dandasana in the wall here, like this. So we can sit here. So you can do this along with me. Put the feet here, and then lift the kneecaps and keep them lifted. So we're going to stay here for 30 seconds, and you're going to notice which leg drops that kneecap first. So really make the leg very, very straight. Lift the chest and lift the kneecaps. And then release the kneecaps. And then lift the kneecaps. Sometimes pinching it here gives you that brain to kneecap connection so that you know where to lift. So in the beginning that works, or even putting your finger. So press the foot, spread the toes, press the heels into the wall, lift the kneecap. And every time you lift the kneecap, feel the lift, the energy that's distributed through the entire body. And it burns a lot of calories, but it takes a lot of energy to keep that leg active. So it makes your pose much more active, much more engaging and energizing for the whole entire body. So this is the way to work the pose to really draw in all those benefits that we read about yoga, that poses have to be done with a certain level of activity. So bring that kneecap up, and notice when you bring up that kneecap, there's less of a tendency to hyperextend the knee or the calf. All right, and then we release the kneecaps and see how much energy that requires. So it's a great way to practice, make your poses more active, and get more of an energetic benefit from your poses as well. Okay, and then last thing on this video before we go on to the next one and we start working on the hamstrings, really start working on this, and then make sure that you don't forget the breathing part. So it would be inhale, exhale, lift the kneecaps, and then continue to inhale. As you exhale, lift the kneecaps even more. So inhale, exhale, lift the kneecaps. Inhale, exhale, press the foot against the wall, stretch the back of the leg much more, lift the kneecaps. Okay? So we're constantly lifting those kneecaps. And see, if I press the 4 points of the foot into the wall, I can lift the kneecaps even better. If my feet are active and pressing against the wall equally, I can lift the 4 points of the kneecap. And I get the benefit right on my hips, and then all that energy shoots up to my body, energizing my body, getting me in a really, good yoga disposition. It's really great. So 4 points of the feet against the wall. Pretend that there's 5 toes here, 5 toes attached to your heels. Spread those toes too. So we're imagining the toes, you got these toes on top, toes on the bottom, spread both, push that feet into the wall, lift the kneecaps, receive that energy surge in your body also. And stretch the back of the leg much more. All right, and then adjust your height. If the tightness here is so much that you can't do this, that's fine. We'll start on working on the hamstrings as well, so that you can get that piece of the puzzle done. Okay, and then the last thing we'll do with this is we started out with a forward bend. So now we worked on the kneecap and the quality of the leg. So now we do that same pose that we were doing, but we do it here. Right, so I'm here, I'm not folding all of the way. My back is it's straight. I am having that same quality of my leg, of my kneecap. So I'm lifting the kneecaps here and holding. See how long I can hold those kneecaps up. Stretching through the back of the leg, making sure that I'm not collapsing my ankles in. Energizing the leg and then energizing the body. So I'm working here. Really creating space in the groin, lifting, grounding those femurs, active legs, lifted kneecaps. Which kneecap is collapsing first. So on my body, the right one decides to give up first, and that is the side that I have most pain in and problems in my hip and foot. So it makes sense. But so I really make sure that I watch that right kneecap carefully and I don't allow it to collapse. Okay, and then you can go ahead and you can try your forward bend, or you can do your forward bend. Actually, all we can do is is the action. The result we're not in charge of, but at least the action of folding forward we can do. And here, when you come here, just check, when am I starting to round the back, and stop just short of that. So if this is as much as you can go here with a block, then stay here. But don't minimize the action of the leg because you want to round the back. Keep the leg active first and the back straight. And slowly, as you get more length in the back here, you'll be able to fold down further without having to bend the knees. Okay, so this is the first sequence of poses to learn forward bend. So maybe practice these for a few days and then move on to the second video where we'll really get into the hamstring and start working on different exercises for lengthening the hamstring. Okay, I hope you enjoy it and you're on your way to creating a beautiful sun salutation practice. I hope you liked it. Please leave me comments if this format works for you, if you like it, and if you found some benefit in this. And I'll see you on the next video.